seconds. Redirecting to YouTube. Hold please, guys. If you're watching live, there we go. I always just have to jump over and mute real quick. Okay. Minor technical difficulties. We're good. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So if you're on YouTube and you're watching live, what's up, everybody? Then you can put anything in the chat box if you want to. I am going to have that available so that I can see it. Okay. YouTube is fun for me to be figuring out this year. YouTube Live. Okay, cool. So, you guys, I'm cozy today. I'm in the yoga pants today. We've had client sessions all day. We've had some engagement calls to support me and just health goals, right? That's part of, if you're not prioritizing like your self-care, whether it's fitness, nutrients, like all of those things, self-made won't happen. So there's that part. Okay. That being said, what's up, everybody? Jumping on live. Okay. So what I thought I would do today, if you're jumping on, this is episode 7, I believe, of the Self-Made series that we're doing 13 episodes. Couple of the questions last week, and that honestly I just continually get, is just personal story and using your personal story to promote your brand, to connect with your audience more. And then people were asking about my personal story and how I got to where I got, doing the simple basics without college education, formal education, like really without any major, well, there's always support, but not like major support. Right? So I want to be able to share my personal story, hoping that that will inspire you, hoping that will give you some sort of tips along your journey, wherever you're at, you're either starting or just wanting to reach that next level. And because we just kicked off a new year, I've had a bunch of new followers, new subscribers, and building that community on a whole different perspective, started an agency, like there's just a lot of new this year. And so one of the things that I thought that I would do is, for those of you, what's up, everybody who's watching live, I see you, put in comments too, so that I can know that you can hear me, see me, all of those fun things. But what I thought that I would do is kind of do a little bit of like reintroduction of myself, that also will hopefully help inspire you, give you some guidance, support, inspiration, like to keep going or to start. Reinvention is definitely one of the words that I use a lot if you haven't been following me. So you might be starting something new at like feeling like it's new, but it's at the new of a different level. You might have totally pivoted and now you're like, okay, I need to start over completely. Or maybe you're starting something new and you're like, great, if I were like, somebody just help give me the, if you were to like look in hindsight and not reinvent the wheel, really, Sarah, just kind of like look in hindsight and backtrack all of the things that created that success, like what would you do now, type of thing. So that's what I'm here to share with you today. And we're good? Yes, cool. So if you are new, if you're of the many who have stepped in new, my name is Sarah Delane, and where do we start? Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 13, pretty much. So I started in the entertainment industry. I started as an actress. It's a young, little, budding, inspiring creative. So if you're a multi-creative, if you have a very creative mind, like you're in the right place. And that was going wonderfully, right? So I started learning psychology. I started learning archetypes, character development, all of that to really like embody those different characters. And so it was really wonderful being in that creative space, trying on different parts of my personality, understanding, learning all of that, developing truly like the personal brand. So I didn't have a lot of formal traditional education. Okay. So just as like a quick thing, I don't know if I've ever told anybody this, but I tested out of high school. I homeschooled myself from 8th, 9th, and 2 months of 10th grade. And then I tested out. So as far as like my formal education, I was working consistently. I was making those 6 figures in the entertainment industry before I even understood like really what that meant. And so on some level, you might think like, wow, that's so awesome. And your, Hollywood lifestyle and partying with celebrities and working with celebrities. And there was also a lot of personal challenges that I was going through at the same time. So in order to be in the entertainment industry, that also meant that I had to be in a very toxic environment. I was living with my grandmother. She was not the peachy, like squeeze your cheeks kind of woman. And so I would have, I think I probably had at least like 3 ulcers during the 3 years that I lived with her. There was just a lot of stress, a lot of like, just upset in that environment, right? And yet I got to be able to create. I got to be able to live this incredibly fun lifestyle and build a true, like using my personal brand, but build a true career inside of a very difficult industry. And so I won't go into all the details on like all of that, because that's a whole other thing, right? But moved into producing, tried on different like aspects within the industry, right? I even did an independent film, and like I did the wardrobe for like the thing. It was fun. It was really fun. It was really creative. And then something happened. This apex point happened where I had a personal near-death experience. And so that's for maybe a different side, right? There was that girl, that younger version of me, and she was dealing with all of that upset coming out of that toxic environment. And I used self-medicating in order to work myself through all of that. And that led ultimately to a near-death experience. And at the same time, the industry was changing. And so there was a lot of actor strikes and writer strikes, and there was just a lot of shifts in the industry. And what ended up happening was what was called offer only. And so after being able to work consistently, being able to even get an audition, I couldn't even be seen. And so now I'm like at this apex point of, okay, I'm going through this personal life experience and like, I can't get hired. I can't even get inside the door. Hang on, what are we doing here? And so that was the first time that for me, I realized I don't own anything. I wait for somebody else to say yes to me. And I don't own anything. I create these characters, but I don't own them. And so what am I building that's mine? And what am I building that I have power and control, creative control over? And that was really scary because I also, again, I didn't go to college, barely finished high school. So I didn't have formal education on like, what am I going to create for myself? What am I going to do? If I can't get hired over here, what do I do? And so I'm one of those like radical people where if you hit a plateau, like, and you need to pivot, like I pivot hard. And so I packed up everything. I put everything on hold and I went on like this spiritual journey, and I moved to Sedona, and everybody thought I was crazy at the time because at that time it wasn't cool to go on a spiritual journey. Now it's like, oh, cool. That's normal. At the time they thought I lost my mind. And I probably did. Because honestly, it was the first time that I wasn't listening to my mind. I wasn't listening to all the shoulds. If you have should syndrome, and I was listening to my heart, I was listening to this sort of higher calling, if you will. And so sometimes maybe you've experienced this in your life where like you felt like there was a higher calling that led you onto a totally different path. And so mine was a literal call, and it was an opportunity to do something completely new, but in the space of spiritual alignment that I was really into, and personal development and self-growth and all these things that I was diving into learning because I wanted to learn more about myself. And so I dove headfirst into just that passion for spiritual and self-growth. And I picked up everything and I moved to Sedona for 3 years. I don't always recommend that. Maybe like a different city, maybe, right? But if you're radical like me and you can do that, then go for it. I will never say that I'm against it because I've done it. And so that helped me then transition into starting my own business. Because again, when I realized I don't own anything and how I want to create something that I feel really great about, that's mine, that I own. And what does that look like? And how do I do that? Where would I go to learn all of that? And this is before social media. I think YouTube was just kicking off, right? So I'm learning about these deeper aspects of myself spiritually. And then I'm also dove headfirst into getting coaches, getting mentors, going to seminars, learning anything and everything about marketing, developing. At the time, it was like, I was like, cool, I'm gonna sell these products. I had no idea how to sell products like online. I understood that I had a personal brand, because what the entertainment industry taught me, and you'll appreciate this if you have a personal brand or if you're wanting to create one, it's gonna sound a little bit weird, okay? But if you think about it as you are the product before anything else, it doesn't matter what it is, the tangible product or service that you're selling, thinking of yourself as the product first. Because what personality needs to come out of you in order to like who you need to be, that personality that you need to be to show up bigger, to serve better, or to sell whatever product it is that you want. So that's all I understood. I understood that I was the product. Every time I would walk into an audition, I'm selling myself first. And this, like, you're creating a side character, but when it's your personal brand, it's the authentic you. And that's a whole different ballgame. So I understood that. I understood that as a concept, but I didn't understand the business side of things. And I didn't understand, like, just there's some logistical things and proven practices that work, right? So this is when I was like, cool, I'm going to start my own business and it's going to be these products, and there was no social media. And I'm like, I even honestly, I'm just going to be real. I was even the person that was like, social media this is dumb. This is dumb. And so I gave the product that I was trying to sell, right? There was a YouTube influencer. And what ended up happening is then he took that product and then told everybody that it was his. He told his community and his following that it was his product, completely cut that it was like the design that me and my partner had created, and totally lied about it. And I was like, okay, again, I'm not in control. It doesn't look like I own it. And so that was a really big lesson. But I worked a regular job and like spent all of my time working, and any other time that I wasn't working, I then got mentors, went to seminars, learned whatever I could about branding, marketing, personal development, you name it. I just became a sponge for it. And then figured out from my expertise in the entertainment industry, how I can bring that level of just that vantage point into what I was doing, right? Because the lens of a sort of Hollywood standard, if you will, is different than maybe the lens that they teach in college. So that's a little bit of just how what I offer is different than going the traditional route. It's not better. It's just I come from looking through a lens of a Hollywood standard versus what might have been taught in college, right? But I wouldn't know because I didn't go that route. So what's up, everybody who's on? Let me see the comments. Yes. You were cool before being cool was cool. That's sweet. Thanks. Well, let's start with that let's dive into that, because as I was starting and wanting to sell these products, that's when then social media started popping off. And I was like, okay, well, this person is lying and telling, like taking the control of these products. So I was like, man, okay, I'll get on social media. Like it was so much resistance. I didn't, with as much as people are like, this should be easy for you. You're comfortable in front of the camera. There was still a resistance to wanting to show my face as my brand. Maybe some of you already relate to this, maybe because I hear it all the time from those that I work with. Like, I don't want to be the face. I don't want to like show up, but it's also, we connect with people, right? So I had to get over that real quick. And I had the pain of somebody just lied and like stole my product in a way because they lied and said it was theirs and told their whole community. And I was like, man, that really sucks. So that was the lesson. That was the painful lesson I had to learn in order to propel me into, okay, fine, I'm going to do this myself. Right. But again, you got to own it. You got to own your brand. You got to own your story. You want your own business. You got to own it in all of those levels. So that's how then I transitioned into those products. And then I discovered all the things that I was learning about spirituality, personal development, all of that. People kept asking me and coming to me for coaching. And so when I started I was like, wait a second, this is like a business model. And so I got more training. I dove into like NLP, hypnotherapy, like just got more tools for my goodie bag. And I always loved love stories, right? And I also had experience with very toxic relationships. And so I put it into that model because it seemed to be the most common questions that people would come to me and ask were all around relationships. And somehow I was guiding them from an intuitive place. But then when I actually coupled that with a structure of getting actual tangible tools, then I actually put it into a model, like a true like mentoring model. I don't even really like to use the word coaching because the way that I learned was like those pure, like transformational tools that help you shift your subconscious and shift your behavior. It wasn't until though I was working with multiple different people and recognized the patterns that everybody was having, that's when I discovered my own methodology and at each session, like what technique each person would need. And there became these foundational techniques that if you didn't have these foundational ones, it was very hard to move you into the next sort of self-awareness stage. So I found the pattern after doing it for hours and hours and just working with people and understanding their process and understanding what their needs were. So that's when I really organized everything that I was learning and put it into an actual system and a proven system because I had done it so many times. I knew immediately what was going to be needed next. So that's when I coupled that with now social media is popping off. Okay. And I recognized though, the desire for connection and community, even through social media. And I followed an energy that was correct, right? Because Facebook Live was happening, YouTube Live was happening, but it didn't feel like there was a connection with an audience. It didn't feel like growing a community and building a community. And it wasn't until I moved over to Instagram and then I started doing weekly lives. And that's when I noticed the questions that people would have. And they were asking similar things about relationships, right? So I made the topic around spirituality and relationships. And that's when I started working or collaborating with other influencers. Shout out to one of my brothers, Phil. Some of you, if you're new, you may not know this. This was like OG. Some of you, if you've been following me for a while, you'll remember this because it was like 4 years ago. And so we started doing lives together and it just became building a community. And then I was collaborating with other influencers and just building that community, but really like everybody coming, showing up, doing a live every single week. I did it for like, I think it was like 4.5 years, every single week, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so sometimes I would do them solo, sometimes I would do them with partnering with other influencers, but it's really what built the community, built the engagement, if you will, all around the topics of self-development, personal growth, right? All that spiritual, so that you can have those better relationships. I moved that into then, once I discovered like the patterns of the system that I had built, and then the questions that people kept coming and asking. So one of the things that I would do from a marketing standpoint, this would be really good for you and your own audience, is I would, after every single live, I would go through and write down all of the questions that everybody was asking. And I put them into a little Google Excel. And then I would go over them. And again, I'm just finding patterns. I would go over and be like, okay, what are the common questions that are asked most often? And I took those 3 questions, or those 3 primary challenges, if you will, that everybody was having. And that's where I created a course from that. So everything was from watching different patterns and discovering different patterns of what people were coming to me asking for. Turn that, right? It's now I recognize it as common marketing, right? What are the challenges people are coming to you for? And then what solutions would you get them? And since I had a whole just goodie bag of not only the system that I created, but then all this other goodie bag of these proven techniques, like based on neuroscience, based on just all the like nerdy psychology that I geek out on. Now I really do specialize in what's called parts work. And that's just, I found out of all of the things, I was like, oh, this makes me the happiest. I love doing this. This feels super aligned. So I really created a formula around what's called parts work. Some people think that it's the same as, what is it? IFS, interfamily systems, interfamily, IFD, interfamily dynamic. No, I think it's interfamily systems, something like that. A little bit different. So if you're thinking that, it's a little bit different. But I created that system and then built a course around it, right? So now in total, I think I have like 6 courses, 3 long-term courses, right? Like 12-week courses, and then mini courses or like 3-day courses, stuff like that. So some micro educational pieces, and built those courses that then would support. I like doing them live, but then people can then also watch on their own time. And so those are all the techniques around the personal development. From there, what ended up happening, and this is all just still on social media, side note, did not use, this is before really like paid ads. Like I think the main thing that they were advertising was like pay to boost your like a picture that you posted or something like that. So this was not using ads. This was not doing any of that, right? But my first course, like I was selling that for $2,000 a pop and got 10 people enrolled in the first course I ever built, because I built a community and because I was showing up and supporting every single week with the primary challenges that were happening. And I was using my personal brand and my education and expertise in order to do it. So community is super important. It always has been. Again, it's the other reason why I show up here on live, because I know the power of educating within like just connection to connection. With as much as like you guys can see me, I can't always see you. And that's why I do live teachings and live webinars and live trainings that then you can like, I get to have a deeper connection with you guys. But when you're here and you just want to like learn and you want to get this stuff sort of like on your own, that's the power that has always built and sustained my business. So building those communities, showing up and being that resource of information with your expertise, right? So after having done all of that, that's when things naturally transitioned, where then people were coming to me. And so again, I just always listened for, what are people needing next? What are people coming to me for? And so what they needed next, or what they were asking for, they were like, well, how did you do this? How did you build your business up to 6 figures, the first, right, level at least, just using social media? So that's when then I like reverse engineered all of the steps that I did and then turned that into a course. And that's called Launch to Lead, right? And that's build, brand, and market. Again, I had a signature method. So it's the build is build your signature method, then your brand. How are you going to position your personal brand, the unique aspects that make you different, not better, but different than how somebody else is offering it, even if you're doing the same thing. And then obviously marketing it. How are you going to show up and market yourself? Hold a second, because I realized I didn't plug in my laptop and it's at 30%. Hold please. And if you have questions, you can write them down. Come on. There we go. We're good. Good. We're good. Did I just flash somebody? This is live. Can't edit this out. I love live. I don't like doing too much editing, right? I just want to be in the moment with you guys. So, and let me check real quick if you have any questions or comments. No, we're good. Okay, cool. And what's up, everybody who's just watching. So all of that, I built everything from nothing. And that's where like owning it and being self-made was really just the inspiration, because I wanted something that I could have as my own. And I didn't have traditional education for this. Some of it was like, figure it out as you go. Some of it was, I need to actually like, who's the coach? Who's the mentor? Who can like show me what they did? And then I can equally do it for my own business. So it was a little bit of both. Some things I was just testing myself. And then some things I learned proven practices about just standard. This is how you build an online business. So, but everything came from the beginning of your personal brand is the foundation of everything else. So now more recently, some of you guys will hear me say that I describe everything. I put relationships into everything. And so now marketing is like dating, branding is what builds trust, and then sales is intimacy. I usually say sales is sex, but sometimes I don't know if that freaks out the AI algorithm or not. Is that an okay word to say? Like, you also, if you know me or if you don't know me, get to know I don't have a filter. I drop F-bombs. I just stopped censoring myself ever since the industry, right? There's always that version of you that's like, oh my God, and show up this way, and you have to be this, and all the perfectionism. When I just really gave myself permission to like let all that go, I'm like, if I want to drop an F-bomb, I'm going to. If it offends, well, work on that. That's a you problem. Okay, so last year was when I then moved everything into starting my own agency. And that was one of those, I'll just keep it real, because I am a believer, and I'm not the only one that says this, right? So this goes in just the lifestyle of being an entrepreneur, right? Going bigger, having that bigger vision, and then doing something that feels bigger than you and feels like it's a little bit scary. And it took me a minute because not a lot of things felt scary anymore. And I was like, I really sat with like my own, just taking a moment for myself and really sitting in meditation. And the next like biggest expansion that had that like tinge of scary was like, it was literally just this internal voice that was like, you need to start your agency. And it was literally, I don't even know how to explain it. I am always very intuitively, very spiritually guided, but it was that inner, like just that inner voice. And it was like, this was the plan all along, which is funny to say out loud. So last year it was like, all right, that's what we're doing. And we're moving it into the branding, the marketing. So really helping people develop their personal brand and their marketing strategies. And then of course, we're including personal development, because you can't be an entrepreneur without that. And so that was that model that I was like, okay, this I can build into something really beautiful and really powerful. And this I can even, just like an actor in the entertainment industry, like I was represented by certain agents. And so I'm like, why are like coaches and consultants not represented by agents? So there's that element of it as well. And really building out a community that is represented by the agency, because there is not a lot of regulation in the coaching and consulting industry. Some people are like, I'm a coach, and they don't have a background. They're not certified in anything, or they're just like, I've done a couple meditations and I've had a hard life, and now I want to be a coach because I can just ask people questions. Okay. Just keeping it real. If you're that person, please just go get a little bit more training. I felt even more like excited. I already had so many intuitive things, but it wasn't until I really got solid training that was like, I can turn this shit into a badass business. And it also created safety and trust within the people that I was working with, because they're like, oh, you have a model. You have a proven system that's also backed by proven systems. So I am one of those, right? Maybe unpopular opinion. I don't care. But I am one of those that truly believes, like, don't be a coach unless you've got something to back it up with, a system, a proven model. It's kind of like that 10,000 hours rule. There's I work with a lot of yoga instructors, right? And you go and you learn like what, 500 hours, 1,000 yoga teacher training hours. Like, you put the time into learning these different methodologies. Anything that you do, put the time in. And so there's not a lot of regulation in the coaching industry. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, I learned how to be a business coach from another business coach, and now I'm a business coach. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. So we're just calling out the truth, but where's the regulation in that? And who is supporting those that really truly have expertise? And where are they that you can go to a place and be like, okay, yes, I can vouch for you. You are accredited. And so when you're an actor in the entertainment industry, like, the better the agency, you had to have done work in order to get to a better agency. Otherwise, right, you're considered green. That's what they call it. Like, and it's not bad. It's just you're green. You don't have as much work under your belt. And so some agencies won't take you unless you have a certain amount of work under your belt. But that's what really establishes the expertise versus somebody who is just a beginner. And all phases are okay. But then it's just, where is that regulated? And so I wanted to also be able to offer that within an agency model, the way that I learned it from Hollywood, but just in the coaching and consulting space. So give me some comments if that resonates with you. Yes, like CAA for coaches and consultants. You know it. CAA is one of the top. If you guys don't know, CAA is one of the top agencies. I think they may have merged now. Are they still CAA? They may. Totally different topic. Okay, so, and my agency is called Stage 8. And part of that, I'll give a little brief story as to where that came from, because Stage 8, when I got to my next level of success in the entertainment industry, I had done, oh God, so many national commercials. I lost count, like 25, 30, something like that, right? And that's how I really started. And that's got me into SAG, and that got me into just really being on set and getting just work under my belt. But I hadn't moved into TV. And so the transition into that, I will never forget. And it was the WB Stage Studios in Studio City, which is where one of the places I used to live. And I used to I used to just imagine what it would be like, because they create these whole sets in like these massive studios. It's like a hangar. And each one was called like Stage 5 and Stage 6 and Stage 14 and whatever, right? And so I remember the stage that was when I got my first TV, like first transition into TV. So I got to that next stage in my career, but I got to be on stage. And for that, it was Stage 14. So it wasn't Stage 8, but the stage itself is part of that, of like getting to that next level of success for you. And so why I named it, so it's partially because it was the stage, like at the WB Studios, but I named it Stage 8 because, one, in numerology, I am an 8, but the 8 also represents success, right? So my numerology, like life path number, is 8. And so it means success, and it means abundance, and it's everything surrounded about that. So if I was going to be helping others create more financial freedom and abundance and building their business, whether it's coaching, consulting, whatever that is, as their personal brand and their online business, then that's what we're naming it. That's what's going to be the energy to support all of that. So that's why I named it Stage 8. The logo looks like a 6, because 6 also means family, and that's relationships, and that's connection. And so there's a little bit of like play on numerology for it. But it is all about like wherever you're at, that feeling of I have this goal of achievement and being able to get there. And that feeling, the same feeling that I got to when I moved from television and commercial to moving into like prime time TV. Like I will never forget that feeling. And so there were always these stages of accomplishment, and to celebrate that and to know that like you can always have as many stages you want. There's more than 8 stages. It's just stage 8 is the level of abundance and financial freedom. So that's why I named the agency Stage 8. So all of that is to really support personal development, or self-growth and development, and personal branding and building the online business, and then supporting those marketing services, including social media, all of the things that I had to do for my own business, content creation, right? And becoming that trusted authority. So everything that I created, I reverse engineered, and then it's just scaling that up and making that more accessible for everybody else to do the same, because I am a believer. For me, especially as a woman, the scariest time was, like I said, when I was like, I'm waiting for somebody to say yes to me, and I don't have any other options. It didn't feel like, and that was scary. And for me, no woman should ever feel like she can't have the level of financial freedom that I want to say that she deserves, but it's almost like everybody deserves. So it's not the financial freedom that she deserves, but every person, and especially because I'm passionate about supporting and empowering women to be entrepreneurs and to reach higher levels of entrepreneurship, but everybody should, I believe. So I put the word should, because for me, I believe that everyone should feel the confidence of being able to be self-made and owning something that they built themselves, that no one else, you don't have to wait for somebody to say yes to you. You can pay yourself, like you own it, you run it, you own it, you built it, it's yours, like it's yours. And so if that's resonating with you, you're either somebody who's on that path, even if you're maybe promoting another product, but you're building your personal brand that nobody can ever take away from you. That's one of the reasons why personal branding, like I'm putting the emphasis on that, because I've known it since I was 13, and through like an industry level lens or an entertainment industry lens, and understanding just that caliber of what that can look like, to then moving that into being an entrepreneur as owning your own business. But just, you own it. Nobody can take that away from you. That's your personal brand. Even if you're promoting another product, you can have your business brand and you can have your personal brand. And now it's really funny because yes, I created both, and I had to figure out how to organize that. How do I figure out all the ideas, me as the multi-creative? So if your mind works like mine and you're that multi-creative, like how do you organize all of the things, your business brand, your personal brand? How do you scale that? How do you organize it? How do you structure and strategize it so that you can be profitable? I had to figure that out for myself. And it's one of the things that I absolutely love helping others figure out. And now everybody comes to me and they're like, okay, I've been hiding behind my business, or I built this business, but now I need to build, like, what about me? I need to build my personal brand. What if I want to offer something else? What if I want to sell this business? Or I'm promoting another product. What if I want to offer a different product or promote a different product? Like, what does that look like? So we need to be able to take all of those multi-creative ideas and organize them into a formula that then you can scale, and that it doesn't feel so confusing, that it feels more organized. And so organization is really key, and structure. If you don't have organization and structure, then you cannot create a roadmap, which would be strategy, right? So organization, structure, then strategy. That's how I do that. It's also the symbol for infinity. Yes, it is. And that is another yes. So you're already picking up all of the things. I was always, ever since I was a little girl, there were a couple symbols that I used to dream about all the time. And for one, it was always the 8. This is before I knew anything about numerology. So, but part of my intuitive side, like I've gotten dreams ever since I was very young. So I'll just, I don't know, sometimes I get strange dreams and it's like, I'll get information or I'll see visions or things like that. So I would always see the 8, but it was also turned sideways. Did not know that this was an infinity thing. I mean, we're talking like 6th grade, I think, was when I started seeing that. And then I always saw the Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh. So Egyptian symbolism and history was always so fascinating to me. Honestly, when I was in junior high, the last year of junior high that I did, which was 6th grade, I could care less about American history for me personally. Like I didn't care. But when it came to Egyptian history, I was like, and I memorized all the hieroglyphs. And because I kept seeing this Ankh symbol. And so once I saw it, when we started learning Egyptian history in junior high, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's what I've been dreaming about. So funny you should say. And it's interesting, well, because once we started making the products, the first original products that I started the business when I was in Arizona and Sedona is a modern Ankh. And that was really, that was to me, I was like, I want to build this, like, because it was that image that I kept seeing. And so we made a meditation tool that starts, you know, just doing all the, like the energy work, right? This was my spiritual, now we're very grounded spiritual. But it was an actual tool that uses Egyptian architecture and the way that they started designing. So everything that they do, all the Egyptian architecture is all about like geometry and sacred geometry. And there's a true science behind it. So not just like some woo-woo-y stuff, but like there's a true science behind. If you ever dive into that, like you'll see it. So we started using those dimensions and those angles to build an actual tool that is a meditation tool. And when you wear it, it helps just keep you in alignment, right? And it's funny because now, you know, being in the coaching consulting space as an entrepreneur, everybody talks about alignment and people have different definitions for that, but there is a true science-based energetic alignment. So it's yes, infinity, and yes, the Ankh. Okay. So like I said at the beginning, I wanted to just take this moment to sort of, you know, new year, reintroduce myself and my personal story. And maybe you've seen some places of where you might be within your own story, or you might see some areas of what you want to create and you have a desire to build and go bigger. And so hopefully like this will give you a little bit more insight into me, if nothing else, and just getting to know me better. And so I'd also really love to hear from you and your story. And so either put in the comments or if you want to send me a DM on Instagram, or if you're on my newsletter, then you can always reply to that newsletter and it will go to me. I look at it. I see them. I check my DMs. I check my my emails if you hit reply on that. So it is always me. I won't say always, but I check them. Just full transparency. So oh goodness, and it's already been 45 minutes. I have a client session right now, and to leave you with, if making sure that your personal brand, if you either have a business or you're wanting to start one or scale one, and through really being able to create that powerful personal brand, or I like to say the profitable personal brand, I created an ebook called The Profitable Personal Brand that is on my website. Download it. Take the Sunday read, grab your coffee. Like it's full of tons of like juicy nuggets. I dive into archetypes because just understanding archetypes from character development and just how you can use that not only to determine like the strength and the uniqueness of your personal brand, but also then finding who is your target audience? What archetype are they? So that then you can speak to them better. And so you can show up to them better. But I'd love to hear any questions or comments. Lovely story. You're welcome, honey. And to remember that your personal story, and there's another video on my YouTube channel as well that uses how to use the archetypes in developing your personal brand story or your personal story for promoting or sharing about you, so that then you can have other people get to know you as well. So I am absolutely a big believer in, what is your story? What happened through your experience that is the reason why you want to help the people that you help now. It's so powerful and it's so important. And it doesn't always have to be like, if you'll notice, it doesn't like, I didn't share some like deep challenges. I shared the steps that I did in order to create what I have now. There's always a time and a place for those. And not everything, I want to say this one too, because I have so many friends that have powerful, profound stories. And sometimes what I hear from people is, wow, that person's story is like so powerful. Like who am I to share my story? Who am I to be an authority in this field? And so that credibility piece is somehow the thing that always gets people most often, right? So if this is you'll resonate. If not, everybody has different challenges, but oftentimes I'm hearing from people, they're like, well, who am I? And their story is so amazing. And, what credibility do I have? Who's going to listen to me? Like, what do I have to say? Not every story has to be like my personal story was not like, I didn't have some dramatic, I had a near-death experience. There was that. But a lot of it was like the internal challenges. Right? A lot of it wasn't external scars. Nothing dramatic happened outside of me. It was my internal challenges. It was the emotional scars of dealing with an abusive relationship with my grandmother and what that impact had on me. And so how I had to overcome those in order to then step into my next level of success version of myself. I had to release that version of me in order to have the level of success and build something completely on my own, not knowing anything and starting from what literally felt like the absolute bottom. So not every story needs to be this like dramatic thing. Sometimes your story about the internal challenges can be even more impactful because it's just as important and it's just as inspiring. And so if you want, I can always share more about those details, but it's like just knowing that internal scars are just as important, because sometimes those are the most dangerous ones. You can't see those and you don't know the level of impact. And maybe there's somebody else that is experiencing those, that listening to your story might really inspire to help them keep going, right? And so if you were on any of those lives over the 4.5 years on Instagram, you heard a lot of those stories and a lot of those challenges. That's a lot of what I was spending my time sharing about, answering questions for people, and then sometimes bringing in my own personal experience. I am one to always make it about you and about what your desires and your challenges are. And so there was, for a long time, I was like, I need to not talk about my stories because I'm making it about me. That was the belief that I thought. And literally somebody came to me and they said, I would actually really be inspired to hear your story and how that might inspire me more. And I'd really love, like, could you share yours? And it wasn't until somebody actually came and asked me for it that I realized, oh, wait a second, it doesn't always have to be a teaching moment for other people through do this and let me answer all of your questions. Sometimes listening to somebody's journey, you're going to get the nuggets that you need. So hopefully I shared something today that even if you got like one little nugget that planted a seed to help you keep going, then I know I've done my job. And if I haven't, I'll do better next time. So yes, the internal details are more relatable as well. 100%. So remembering that, because I hear it all the time from people, and that your experience matters, because you don't know from your experience, you don't know what's going to land. Me, whatever I shared today, I have no idea what's going to land for you. I'm hoping that something landed to, like I said, help keep you going and inspire you. But your story, you don't know what's going to land. We can sit there and speculate all day, but until we actually just show up and share, we don't know what's going to be inspiring for somebody else. And one person might get one thing that's inspiring and somebody else might get something completely different. So all of that to say, oh my gosh, I gotta go. Okay. You guys are amazing. I think this was episode 6 or 7, I don't know, of the Self-Made series. We're doing 13 episodes. Write your story. Watch the video that I made about using archetypes to write your story. If you have a personal brand, if you're desiring to like really step out bigger, creating something of your own, so you're either starting or needing to like get to the next level, maybe you're reinventing and you're like, I'm starting from what feels like a new bottom. Download the Profitable Personal Brand ebook. The quiz is there too, the Profitable Brand Personality Quiz. That's based all on the archetypes. So I've got tons of goodies on the website. If you haven't been over there, I literally put up a bunch of new ones at the beginning of this year. So if you haven't been over to the website, go see what resonates with you. Download that. I'll put you on my email list, so you'll get, newsletters when I send them out. I send out whenever it feels inspiring for me to really be James Rutherford, thank you. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Big claps and hearts. Thank you so much. So yeah. And if this resonated with you, or if you know somebody who's on the journey and they could use some support by listening to somebody else's story from, like I said, I didn't have traditional education and started with what felt like nothing. And that's how I think a lot of people either start, or you're starting from a new level and you're like, oh my gosh. So if you think this might really resonate with a friend, hit the share button and share it with them. I'm a big supporter in making sure that everybody has that self-alignment to keep going, and whatever you can do to create financial freedom. So that was what meant the most to me in the time that I felt the scariest, when I didn't know how to create that for myself. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I'm so passionate about helping others create it for themselves as well. So I am Sarah Delane. I appreciate you guys. Love you so much. I'll see you next week, same time. This will be on this channel and it will be in the replay. I'll send it out in my newsletter as well. So, oh my gosh, it's already an hour. It's too long. It's too long. But I love you guys. Thank you all for who are watching live, who tuned in live. You guys are amazing. And I will see you next week.